Alright, Illinois Oil and Gas Act, Subpartk, plugging wells, non-productive wells repealed. Definitions. Case well means which production casing has been sent with a cement with a mean of the class of the neat cement with a mean weighing 14.5 pounds per gallon. Cement contain additive with improvability of cement will provide the necessary protection of the maintain with a minimum comprehensive strength of the 500 after 72 hours. If fly ash is used for the additive with the maximum amount of the fly ash is 35% of the weight of the whole cement mixture. Only Class C and 5F of the fly ash of the ASTM standard C618 with this no. The generator fly ash may certify with the writing cement blending company with the ash fly meets with the specification copy certification required to provide department and other requests of also 5 to 60% of the weight of the cement grade with the by and retinol gel with the required with the use of the cement and with the fly ash mixture. The gel with the required with the cement grade with maybe either wet or dry with the blend with the cement with the fly ash mixture with the cement and fly ash dry mixture with the required thoroughly and uniformly blend either mechanical pneumatically cement blended used in addition with the oil and water authorized representative with the cemented with the blending competency with the required with the certified with the rating of the dry mixture contains a maximum of 35% fly ash if the properly blended with the well cement contactor is required to provide certification to the department to represent with the product used with the mixture with the unless otherwise with the department determines it has a reason to believe it by testing and visual inspection. Mixture not properly blended with the mixture should be used with the properly blended with the habit and proof of the use of the department representative. Circulation method means the placement of cement with the use in plugging well and circulating cement with a pipe, especially with the tap of the well with a dump baler method of placing the cement with the plugging well with the use of the dump baler or wire line. Inactive well means a well that has been ceased for the period of 24 consecutive months of mud, meaning with drilling mud with a minimum marsh funnel with a capacity of 45 seconds with the mud maintained. Contains 45 contains fresh brine, betanol, atupil, polygated or other additive that may not reduce the viscosity below 45 seconds. Plugging fluid waste must plugging fluid, including cement with the generator of the well during plugging activity. Producing and leaching producing unit means a leach of water held and water flooded to enhance oil recovery has produced the sold oil within preceding 12-month period. Uncased well means a well production casing that has not been set. Plugging responsibility. The current permitted with the person with the responsible for the permitted with the responsible for the plugging well is defined in section 240, 200, 300, 1800, 1900 of this part. Case of oil leaking, plugging responsibility in accordance with section 240, 80, 70, and or in 240, 875 of this part. Plugging uncased wells. Any well with a well for which production casing is not cemented with a trouble to plug within accordance with section 240, 11, and 40, part 30 days after the drilling with a head sheet with the extension of the time that has been granted with the department determining with the grant extension of determining the length of the extension of the department consider with the permanent specific planning with the well bore evaluation utilization. Total depth of the well with the depth of the strip of the casing, description of the current condition of the hole, included description of the drilling fluids currently in the well. If the determines the base field of the observation uncased well present with risk of the contamination, environmental risk of fire with the public safety have to do with the leaking well bore fluids, escape flammable toxic gas permit shall commence the plugging well within 24 hours of the notification of the department. Plugging in temporary abandonment inactive production wells. An idle production well with an active lease unit with a not harder with a commercial production of 24 consecutive months with a deemed abandoned with the section 240, 16 of the plugging in accordance with 11 and 240, 11 and 40, listed with approved of the temporary abandonment staff of the accordance with subsection C. Idle production will be inactive that at least for the unit, lease of the unit have not commercially produced an introduction in the 24 months shall be deemed abandoned with the not eligible to temporary abandonment staff of the plugging with a hearing of the accordance with section 240, 1610. Permittee shall apply with the temporary abandonment staff of making the written application from the provider with the department shall place with the temporary abandonment staff with the following conditions with continue with the requirement or met with the well shall have properly bonded in accordance with the effect with if applicable is not plugging restoration fund well shall be inactive intact with leak free with the well with the cap of the valve configured with the monitoring casing of the annual pressure of the well configured in 1/4 of the inch female fitting with a shut off valve with all the other monitoring analysis of the wells of the permitted well with the well has been sustained with the gas pressure surface requirements of subsection E, if it does not apply, well, it should have the above ground level with the permit complying with the requirements of subsection D with the D with the prior department placing with the temporary abandonment status with the permission of the conduct of the fluid test of the palm of the fluid with the well bore with the after of the nose under the supervision of the department of representative of the acoustic of the well or line string line measuring method. The department authorized with the permit of the conduct of the fluid level without presence of the department of representative of the permit show the report of the fluid level test on the prescribed of the department. If the fluid level of the well bore is not no higher than 100 feet below the base of the fresh well of the department of the main grant with a temporary abandonment staff with the condition with the subsection C1 through 4 or unless of the permit D with the successor of the condition subsection D3A or B with the permit show the permit with additional fluid test of the prescribed or in subsection D every 5 years until the well is removed from the temporary with abandonment status. D with the fluid level higher than 100 foot below the base of the fresh water at the time of the temporary abandonment request. We listed with the active status with the department of record with the permanent notification. After the notice under the supervision of the department of representative remove with any fluid level than 100 feet below the base of the fresh water with at least 48 hours, no more than 96 hours of fluid to remove with the permanent of the fluid level of the prescribed with the subsection D. When if the fluid level is higher than 100 feet below the base of the fresh water with the permanent valve with the requirements of subsection D3A or B or 2, if the fluid level remains no more than 100 feet below the base of the fresh water, at least for the 9, no longer than 12 months for the day with the fluid with the remove of the well bore with the permission with the measure of the fluid level in accordance with the subsection D. If and after the subsequent fluid level test of the level of the well bore with as removed at least of the 100 feet below the base of the fresh water with the conduct in subsection to C1 through 4 with the continuing with it be met with the department show that the temporary abandonment step of the 5 year of the day with the subsequent fluid level test. Thereafter the permission of the permit or additional fluid level test prescribed in subsection D every 5 years until the well is removed from the temporary abandonment status. B. Elect to file with the requirements of subsection D3A or B if the fluid level is tested with a higher than 100 feet with the base of the fresh water with the notice of the temporary abandonment request. Well, this is a temporary abandonment set with the department of record with the permit with the notice of the under the supervision of the department of representative with the set with a cast iron plug within 200 feet of the uppermost periphery of the open hole with the internal well with a cemented plug with a producing case no more than 100 feet below the base of the fresh water with the removal of the fluid level with at least 100 feet below the base of the freshwater zone. Minor fluid level every 5 feet in accordance with subsection D with the B with the set with the casing of the iron plug with 200 feet above the periphery of the open hole interval cemented portion of the producing case with no more than 100 feet below the base of the freshwater with the pressure testing casing with a maintain with the pressure with the 300 psi gauge. For a period of 30 minutes subsequent to the pressure test is conducted every 5 years until the well is removed from the temporary abandonment status. If the department found the temporary abandonment status violation operational requirements of subsection C or the D with the department shall issue the directors of the decision requiring the properly plug, replug, or repair with the permit has not complied with the director's decision of the department pursuant to subsection E with the final with the ministry of the decision issued with the well is to be found in violation of subsection C or D with the temporary abandonment status of the well revoke with the violation remediate when the well is in compliance in section. The permit shall the monitor of the well and certify with the annually form provided with the department of the no pressure for the casing of the annual for the well with the granted with the temporary abandonment staff with the temporary abandonment request to determine item permit shall within 90 days of the plug with the well with correctly deficiently covered denial with the secure with the above approved with the temporary abandonment permanent with the beginning of the January 1st 2023 temporary abandonment status shall determined in the 5 year of the day with the temporary abandonment status with granted lift of the permanent comply with requirements subsection D for every 5 year period with the temporary abandonment status. Temporary abandonment status may be determined with the upon application of the termination temporary abandonment status with the permanently with a temporary abandonment request have been approved with the department of the inspection of the department over the inspection of the temporary abandonment termination request over the form discussed with the department. Well, when the temporary abandonment status on the January 1st 2023 beginning January 1st 2023 with the temporary abandonment status after on January 1st 2023 should be granted additional temporary status for the 5 year with the expiration of original temporary abandonment designation as well with the well complying with subsection C and D. Least unit of the wells located with the remains active with the permanent submitted with the application pursuant to subsection C with the applicant and approved with the department. Temporary with abandonment status with the renew with such over the 5 years with the well remains compliant with this section of the department shall assess with and collect annual fees of $100 per well for each temporary abandonment status. The department shall grant with the temporary abandonment successive 5 year period will remain compliant with the section upon permit submission with the geological engineering economical evidence with the base of the industrial standard that remains viable with the future oil gas development purposes. Extension future use of status production wells repealed. Or plugging in temporary abandonment in inactive class UUIC wells. Any Class 2 UIC well located active leaf, equipped with a tubing compact with the previously established with mechanical integrity cone with section 240, 76 with a maintain, 76 with a maintain with a mechanical integrity cone with a section 240, 76 with a shovel plug with a corner with a section 11, 240, 1140, unless well with a has been approved with a temporary abandonment and staff with the corners of subsection E with the active with the Class U with the UIC with the well located and inactive with the lease. One of the lease if it has not been operation 24 consecutive months, if it is deemed abandoned but not eligible to temporary abandonment with the pending hearing heading in accordance with the 240, 1610 with the inactive with the Class 2 with the UIC with the located active with the lease without tubing packer previously established mechanical integrity according with the section 247 and 6 with the plug in accordance with the section 240, 11 and 4 with the wells approved with the temporary abandonment status of accordance subsection E. Inactive Class 2 UIC wells located with the active lease equipped with the tubing packer without tubing packer with have not been previously established mechanical integrity section 247 and 60 shall be plugged in accordance with section 240, 11 and 40 within less of the wells approved with a temporary abandonment staff with accordance with subsection E 1, 2, and 3. Established mechanical integrity is 12 with the cast iron plug with a set with a 200 feet above with a perforated to one hole top involved with a cement proportional production casing not less than 100 feet below the base of the freshwater casing pressure tested maintain pressure of 300 psi gauge for a period of 30 minutes for the installing of the tube in the package deck and the passing of the integral mechanical and testing in accordance with section 24760 permit with the temporary abandonment staff of making written application permitted to provide with the department may place for the temporary abandonment staff of following condition with the ability to continue with the requirements may will shall have the proper boundary with the accordance with the act of the applicable not subject to the final administrative decision for the abandonment with the well should be the intact with a leak-free wellhead cap that the valve and configured monitoring casing annular pressure with a have the injection line for disconnect with the wells over the above ground level. The permit comply with the requirements of subsection F. Prior to the department of placing of the temporary abandonment staff with the permission to conduct the fluid level test of the fluid well bore with the notice of the supervision of the department of representative of the acoustic over the wire line and the measuring method of the department to authorize the permit with the conduct of the fluid level test without permits until the department of representative of the permission of the report of the fluid level test for the form described with the department of the fluid level of the well bore with no higher than 100 feet below with the fresh well of the department of grant with the temporary abandonment status if the condition subsection E 1 through 3 over the permit elected satisfied with the condition of the subsection F 3A or B. Permit shall perform an additional fluid level test prescribed in subsection F every 2 years until the well is removed with a temporary abandonment status. Fluid level test higher than 100 feet below the fresh water over the time of the temporary abandonment required for the list of the active state of the department of the record of the permit made with the after the notice of the supervision of the department of representative of the remove any fluid level to 100 feet below over the base over the fresh water over the waste over the least 48 hours, no more than 96 hours after fluid has removed the permit with a show measure of the fluid level prescribed with the subsection F. If the fluid level is higher than 100 feet below the fresh water, the permit shall file with the requirements of the subsection F 3A or B, or if the fluid remains with more than 100 feet below the base of the fresh water with at least 9, but no longer than 12 minutes of the day where the fluid was removed with the well bore, the permit shall be obtained with the fluid level in accordance with the subsection F of the subsequent fluid level test. Fluid level of the well bore remained at least 100 feet below the base of the fresh water condition of the subsection A 1 through 3. Continuing to meet with the department shall grant with the temporary abandonment staff for the 2 years of the day of the subsequent fluid level test of the thereafter of the permit shall perform an additional fluid level test prescribed in subsection F every 2 years of the well with the removal of the temporary abandonment status. Selection of the requirements of the section of the subsection F3A or B. If the fluid level of those tests is higher than 100 feet below the base of the fresh water at the time of the temporary abandonment required for the list of the temporary abandonment staff of the department of record of the permit with the after of the notice under the supervision of the department of representatives. A set cast of the iron plug within 200 feet above the uppermost perforated open hole of the interval cemented portion with the production case not less than 100 feet below the fresh water. Remove any fluid at least over the level of the 100 feet below the fresh water zone with the monitoring fluid level of 2 years over the corner of the subsection F of the war. Set of the cast iron plugging 200 feet below upper perforated over the open hole interval of the cemented portion production case not less than 100 feet below the base of the fresh water with the pressure testing casing maintaining the pressure of 300 psi gauge for the period of 37 minutes. Subsequent pressure tests conducted every 5 years until the well is removed from the temporary abandonment status. If the temporary abandonment request is denied, if the permission will be within 90 days of the well corrected the deficiency, cover the denial secure with the proof of the temporary abandonment permit. Temporary abandonment staff of the production well should not be terminated whether inspected by the officers officer with the inspector of the temporary abandonment termination will approve of the temporary abandonment termination equivalent on the form prescribed by the department. Temporary abandonment status will be granted with every 2 years with the provided of the wells remaining in compliance with subsection E through F of the lease unit with the well for the located with the remaining activity. So for the wells fulfill the requirements of F3B with which were granted every 5 years. The department shall ask if the collect annual fee with $100 per well, each well with a temporary abandonment status. General plugging. Proceed with the notification of the district of the permit shall contact with the district office going forward over the plugging of the casing over the possible determination has been made with the plug on case of the well drilling construction data. All case well with the permit shall have of the well log with the well completion report the site of the review of the well inspect of the schedule of the time of the plugging of the permit cannot locate with the well logs. Booking completion of the record of the completion was made available the site with a copy of the log with the well with the record construction record with the maintained with the Illinois State with the geological survey with the uncased well with the unavailable drilling the well construction information shall be well site with a review well inspector for the time of plugging form material prohibited except for the unavoidable law for the drilling of the logging tool of the producing equipment of the placing lodging with the material with a subsequently unplugged well to either fill with the bridge or the hole with the purpose of avoiding proper plugging with the procedure prohibited form material that have in place for the hole of the should be removed with the plugging operation commence. Plugging a bridge well plugged with the obstruction of the loss of the drilling and logging tool of the producing equipment that impracticable to remove the department may vary with the plugging with the requirements of section specified from the alternative plugging requirement to determine whether to approve and selecting the alternative plugging requirement of the department shall consider the time and the cost removed the loss tool of the equipment of the potential of the damage of the freshwater of the coal seam with the depth of the loss of the tool of the equipment in relation with the depth of the freshwater zone coal seams and construction characteristics. Methane monitoring requirements of the during plugging operation over the well continuously monitor for the methane gas detected with the properly calibrated with the proper working order to ensure the methane concentration when the works area that remains at 3%. Methane concentration work area to the 3% with the plugging operation shall see if it immediately shall not resume the corrective action if they have taken when the methane concentration in the work area has been reduced to less than 3%. Specific plugging procedure: circulation cement with the cement with the trickle over the top of the dove of the plug of the top of the hole, depth of the surface of the loo with the placing of the plug slash in subsection B and C with a D. Over the workable coal with the, and freshwater zone with the have been protected with the cement with the direct with the contact with the both drive with the producing interval plug. Case wells. Circulation method. With the circulation method, the cement plug was placed opposite with either perforated interval with each interval with exposed with after the removal of the production casing with the producing oil gap with the injection occurring quarter mile with the radius over the well exceeding 50 feet below the deepest of the perforated interval with the top of the depth of the plug back with the total depth of the extent 50 feet above the shallowest perforated interval with 50 feet above the open hole interval of the dump baler method. The dump baler method of the cast iron plug with the shell with the immediately perforated interval with the interval exposed with the after the removal of the production casing reproducing oil gas into the injection with occurring with a quarter mile radius over the well with a maximum of 10 feet cemented with the place on the top of each of the well with each of the casting with the iron plug. Alternative setting with the casing iron plug with the cementing with the plug down plug with it can be placed with the well minimum of 50 feet with the cement with the black to the top of each well to ensure with the cemented plug is properly set with the cement plug with the chubby tag with a minimum of 2 hours with the use of the cement plug with the down plug is prohibited to well with a flowing fluid surface. Or case wells should be filled with the mud before commencing with the plugging operation. Cement mud plug should be placed with the opposite of the end of the interval with the producing oil and gas with the injection on the current with a quarter mile with the radius of the well with the cement plug must exceed 50 feet below the exposed of the zone 50 feet above the zone with the cement plug may be used in circulation of the dump of the baler method. All wells shall be left open overnight with a minimum of 12 hours. Surface of the plug will be sure to allow the verification on top of the cement with it required with the paint waiting period with the top of the cement with the fail and more than 4 feet below the ground surface of the additional cement should be placed on the well bridge of the top of the cement with approximately 4 feet of the ground surface of the coal plug with the plugs there should be placed with the workable coal seams according to the section 240 11 and 51 surface plug certification should not be plugged with any well with the cement plug will be placed when they add fresh water used for the easing of the circulation of the dump baler method as follows. Wells over the surface of the casing with the surface of the casing extend 50 feet below the fresh water zone with the circulator and cement circulate with the surface of the cement plug should be placed for the direct physical contact with the shroud with the better for the casing zone 25 feet below the setting of the depth of the surface of the casing with the extent of the surface of the production casing of the left of the hole with no cement depth of the production cementing casing with the cement of the inside of the outside of the production casing with the 25 feet below the surface of the setting of the depth of the case surface casing extended to the surface of the cement should be placed outside of the production casing with the perforating of the casing with the 25 feet below the surface of the depth of the surface of the casing squeezing cement with the beach behind the production casing with the surface of the insert with the top down with the backside of the production casing with the depth of the 25 feet below the setting with the depth of the surface of the casing circulating cement to the surface. Surface of the casing does not exceed 50 feet below the freshwater zone with the continuous cement plug placed in the direct physical of the contact with the shroud of the depth of 50 feet below the freshwater zone with the surface of the production casing with the left of within the hole. There is no cement behind with the production casing with the cement is placed inside with the outside of the production casing with the 50 feet below the base of the freshwater zone with extended to the surface. Cement shall have be placed outside of the production casing with the perforating casing with the 50 feet below the base of the freshwater with the squeezing cement with the behind with the production casing surface of the insert tubing down with the backside of the production casing with the depth of 50 feet below the base of the freshwater circulating cement and with the surface of the wells without surface casing with the cement with the place on the depth of 50 feet below the base of the freshwater zone with the surface plugging requirements of the wells on cemented casing. Department determine the unplugged the plugging and the procedure of the step forth in the section of the file with the well with the destruction of the well construction and the lack of cement with the behind with the casing with the department authorized filing alternative plugging procedures. Production casing removed at least 50 feet below the base of the freshwater with a hole filled with mud. Surface the plug within the subsection G. If the production casing cannot be removed at depth of at least 50 feet below the base of the freshwater, all of the casing contained in the outermost of the shall be the depth of at least 50 feet below the freshwater with the outermost casing with a direct contact with the bare hole borehole with the wall will be perforated, ripped, and parted with an interval with a 50 feet below the base of the freshwater with the cement with the infiltrate with the angles between the casing with the borehole, well hole with the hole should be filled with mud and perforated, ripped, and parted the interval squeezed within the cement with the surface of the plug will be in accordance with subsection D. If the well cannot retain the mud with the production interval is taken with the fluid of the producing interval should be covered with sand, crushed rock, or over the similar material that provided anchor to which place the column of the mud to the hole shall be filled with the mud and surface of the plugs is set in accordance with the subsection E1 or 2. Producing a plugging coal seam when the owner or the manager of the initiative of the active of the non-productive of the non-operative of the active of the coal mine to plug with such of the well with a potential plug back with a direct deformation of the withdrawal of the casing such of the well still notified of the well inspector of the county which well is located to notify of the owner and operative such coal mine at least 8 hours in advance of the time he or expect with the plugging and pulling the casing comments for the operation shooting off of the casing prohibited to the authorized department of representative if the protection of the coal seam each coal seam in the 30 inch of the thickness lying above the depth of 1,000 feet shall be protected with a cement plug with a expanding with 100 feet with above said coal seam the distance of 50 feet below the said over the bottom of the hole whichever is less. If the well penetrating with the active mine will worked out every area with the developed sets of the mine property with the heavy workability coal seam with a shoe with a substantial support with a provide with each cement with required coal seam protection and support plug with consistent with the wood or other suitable material with adequate strength with a should be set with a test of the determined settlement with the movement of the cement plug will not take with during the period with the require of the cementing setting of the cement with the provision section in addition with the plugging requirements of this subpart. Plugging fluid and handling storage. When plugging a well with a permit will provide at least one pit with a leak-free above the ground portable container with a plugging with a fluid waste should be deposited with the plugging and the pit constructed with sufficient capacity containing all of the plugging with the fluid waste within the pit maintained with the manner of the reasonable prevents against overflow during the plugging operation. Plugging pits used only with a temporary storage of the plugging with fluid waste shall not be used as well as the general oil field waste generated during plugging activity temporarily stored on the on-site container should be removed from the site. At conclusion of plugging activity, the general oil field waste shall not be disposed of in the on-site burial of the plugging pits. Plugging fluid waste disposal well with restoration. Free liquid fraction with the plugging fluid waste consisting of the producing oil of the crude oil with the removal of the pit with the disposal of the glass tube with the injection of the above the ground tank with the contained pending disposal of the prior of the restoration remaining plugging fluid waste with the disposed on site with the burial of the plugging pit shall be filed with the levity manner with the allowed to return to original purposes. Original use of the substance of the leak of the fluids of the applicable division of the compact to support farm machinery. All drilling and production equipment, and concrete base machinery with the equipment that drove the should be removed on site with the casing should be kept at least 4 feet below the surface of the ground with a steel blade welded over the case mushroom capped with cement approximately 1 feet in thickness over the place on the casing with the top of the cap at least 5 feet with the ground level of the drilling and the rat hole of the fill with the cement with no later than 4 feet with a higher no longer than high 3 feet below the ground. The well site of the excavation of the holes pit should be filled with the surface level and upon written request and permit of the department to approve the extension of the time exceeding 12 months after the plugging of the wells to complete with the work required with the subsections A through F. L extension of the request of the receipt of the department no less than 10 calendar days prior to the expiration of the initial 6-month period and the extension of the time period will determine whether to grant extension of the determined with the length of the extension of the department to consider the factor of the included but not limited to permanent diligence in completing with the work site since the well was plugged, weather conditions, amount of the type of the work completed, amount of the type of the work is remaining and to still be completed, number of the wells facilities involved in the work, written consent with the extension of the surface owner with the availability of the equipment and or surface conditions beyond the permit's control. Lease restoration within 6 months of the last well of the lease of the plug excavation pits shall be filled with the levied pit concrete structure of the restore of the quantity subpart H subject existing right away with the tank bed with the other production equipment and rock with the concrete pad with the general oil field waste equipment the debris with the flow lines with above surface electrical power line poles extending with the end or above the surface remove the containment dike with the remove it in construction other than the soil level. Upon request of the permit, the department must approve the extension with time 12 months for the plugging of the well, complete with the work with the required with the bringing into compliance section. All the extensions of the request of the receiver of the department have no less than 10 days of the prior of the expiration until the initial 6-month period in the extension. Will determine the granting extension, determine the length of the extension of the department, determining considering factors but not limited to permanent diligence completing of the work since the well was plugged, the weather condition, amount of type of the well work, type of the work completed, the amount of time the work is remaining still completed, number of the wells and facilities involved in work, rate and consent of the extension of the surface owner availability with equipment and or service conditions beyond the permit's control. Lease restoration requirements repealed. Alright, lease plugging of the wells 240-1190 filing plugging report. Immediately after plugging any of the well complete with a permanent representative shall complete with a file plugging report of form from the department providing necessary documentation district office containing information sufficient with a complete plugging report representative from the department not present at the well site during the plugging.